Good evening. This is a momentous event because this is the first event organized by the reconstituted Special Events and Entertainment Committee, replacing the excellent committee that was Tom and Barbara and several others, including Jane, and I'm not sure who over the years. It was 6 years, and now they're starting. We have 5 people on the reconstituted Entertainment and Special Events Committee. Chairs, co-chairs are Donna Greenman, Vicki Alsop, and Charlie Robinson, and then a couple more, Diane Bonner and Linda Platt and myself are just, I guess we're carry the cables and carry the gear stuff. But this is it, this is our first. And I can't imagine, I cannot believe how many of you have turned out to see this. And it's going to be a special event with our fellow resident, Charlie Robinson. And it's my pleasure to introduce him to visit Ireland just a little bit after, but right in conjunction with the St. Patrick's Day. You've probably all seen the flyer, but he said I should read this to you. This is his background. Robinson has traveled to 6 continents, 53 countries, and all 50 states, mainly using OPM. Who knows what OPM is? Right on. He writes detailed travelogue diaries. He's lectured at conferences about these trips, incorporating many photographs and historical backgrounds to give his readers and listeners an authentic feel for his adventures, and some misadventures, perhaps. He also travels to find background for his novels, of which there are how many? 3 and a half. Wow. Okay. So, one other word I wanted to say about the committee. In addition to things like this that I consider was entertainment and education, we are going to have what we would call special events, which could be what you want, what you asked for. People coming in to talk to you about health issues, about international issues, whatever. The committee will organize and set it up. We've got lots of time during the day, and we're all here during the day in general, so no reason it has to be only at night. We'll see. This is in planning stages and moving forward. So if you have ideas, let us know. Get back to me or to any of the other committee members, and we'll see who we can line up. We're looking at lining up somebody from the library right now to give us a talk about the Underground Railroad. And we've also got Carly Affey scheduled, and we're working on getting the Clintonville Mother Singers here in a few weeks. That's what's in the works right now. Without any more further ado, you came here to hear Charlie, so here he is, Charlie Robinson.
Good evening, everyone. So, quick check. How many have been to Ireland? Okay, I can hear. How many wish they'd gone to Ireland? Yeah. Well, top of the morning to eat, and the rest of the day to eat subs. But it's evening, so welcome everybody. I counted 58, maybe or 60. This is a little introduction for my part. I'm not a travel writer. I'm a photojournalist, and I've taken 60,000 photos. And that means you got to throw away a lot, and I haven't yet, like I should. And when I was a kid, it was free-range travel. We just left them away, and now it's getaway travel. I love you all, but if I get a chance to go to now, it's getaway. I traveled, as Michael said, all over the place using OPM. And OPM means, let's say I'm somewhere for a boarding conference. I'll go a day early or stay a day late or something. And I had to give a seminar in Lima, Peru. And the organizer said for $240 a piece, you go 3 days to Machu Picchu. So you do it. Anyway, one thing I have to talk to, there is not an Ireland. Theoretically, it's the Island, which is a big island, and many, many small islands. And in green, you'll see the Republic of Ireland, which is a European Union, about 5.4 million population, and mostly Catholic, although it might be said secular Catholic. And Northern Ireland, which is represented by Orange, is a part of Great Britain, about 1.9 million population and predominantly Protestant. And there's two views of Ireland. There's my view until I got to Ireland was it's the old sod, Kelly Green. I went to meet some leprechauns with my roots. I thought I'd love to meet Montgomery Choir, and I will. I did meet Montgomery Choir. I did meet St. Patrick. I did drink Guinness, and it's Catholic, and it's a friend to outside businesses. But the inside view is the secular, waning religion, liberal democratic, hard on small businesses, and large dependence on tourism. So I've always wanted to visit Ireland. My great-grandfather was a coal baroner near Blair, Ohio, and named me. And my dad went to Notre Dame. I went to St. John's second grade in high school. My first wife's grandmother was a Burke. The second was a Claffey. And my daughter had been there many times before. So I'm talking about two trips. 2009, after my first wife died, I just asked my kids, I want to go, I'll pay you to go. And two of them, but their significant others to go. And then 2010, I went with my second wife, and then her brother said, "Oh, you can't go without a chaperone." And his wife said, "No, you three are not going without chaperone." So that was that. And I'm not an expert, believe me. We have pattern pretty serious questions. I collected 2,500 photos, and unfortunately, it was not on UPF. So this is one of the things I want to point out. Going to Ireland by Aer Lingus, or I stayed in there, by the way. I got this about 3-4 days ago. Traveled to Ireland over St. Patrick's Day, round trip to Boston, about $500. You got to get to Boston or Cleveland or Dulles, somewhere in there. But when I was in upstate New York, I could drive to Boston. So now, driving in Ireland, they are really leftists. Yes, they drive on the other side of the road. When I was there, they did not have all the motorways that they have today. One seat way up front if you want. It's not church. Anyway, and the roads are very narrow, and especially if it's a bus coming at you, like you get brambles. And you definitely need red one shorts because I turned a couple in the claw marks on them. And the neat thing is when somebody wants to pass, they'll flick their lights and you move to the curb and let them pass, then they'll move over. So you gotta watch the speed of the car. There was few. Outside of the tourists, the only way to see Ireland. What we'll talk about is the south part of the Republic of Ireland. And that means Dublin South, Galway South. And it's a tour, and the arrows may or not show up well, but I went through, so the first trip was from to and from Dublin, and then down to Cork, over to Blarney, over to a little town called Kinsale, which is a very, very unique town, over to Killarney, a couple of trips around the various rings, and then to the Shannon Ferry to put some more to Galway and back. The other trip with my kids, we flew into Paris and then Paris to Shannon and Shannon home. You saw last night, and how many went to the movie last night? That was a good movie. Ireland is two things. It's green and rock. Absolutely green and rock. It reminded me, when I'm driving, it reminded me of Eastern Ohio. with the greens, and I said, I've been on this road, farmhouse, it's been cool. Travel trick number one. It's interesting. It's a 6-hour time difference. And you have to know there's daylight regular time. If you're going east, you just gotta try to force yourself to go to sleep. There'll be great food, but go to sleep and then stay up the entire next day. Force yourself to stay up and go to sleep on their time. Believe me, you'll be pretty sleepy. Anyway, Boston, Dublin, Cork, Menlo Park. We ate in Blarney at noon before the castle, and then the castle, and then Kinsale. And the food was universally good, except for a couple of things. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is Blarney Castle. Everybody knows Blarney, the Blarney Stone. All right, so what does the Blarney Stone give you when you kiss it? The gift of gab, G-A-B. Huh? It's also translated eloquence, the gift of eloquence. So if you've ever heard an Irish preacher preach, you want to be ancient. Anyway, so this is the grounds of Blarney Castle. It's a castle, or it's a Blarney house, which is lived in as a mansion or museum, I don't know which, but beautiful gardens. So this is the Blarney Castle, built in 1446 by McCarthy of Muskerry. And remember that restaurant I showed you was Muskerry Arms. Not to be scary, but Muskerry. All right. And this is the plaque as you come in to Blarney, and you notice that it says the climb to the stone. You read this, you say, okay, climb to the stone. What's the climb to the stone? Well, my sister-in-law was a big lady. She drops in it if you hear it. So all of you are petite, don't think about it. Every one of you is petite. And she almost got stuck in the stairwell. Okay. And there's a rope you hold on to as you go up. Now you get to the top, that's me. And you see this little seat right there? This is a misinjection. My wife's mom said, bring me a stone to Blarney Castle. So she sat down, took a nail file, and dug a stone out. Oh. And I just thought she was tired. Yeah, anyway. So here is the Blarney Stone, and you bend over and kiss it. And there you can see there's a walkway up here. This is 8 stories up in the air. So you never think about it. That's where you're hanging out. And it was a gun turret at one time. But you'll see many brick ruins like this all over Ireland that you can go and see. The Kinsale, which is in a place south of Cork to stay, Kinsale has a tidal surge of 10 feet. And when you come low tide, the boats are in mud. And then you come high tide, it's floating. It's about 6,000 in residents, and it's 60 miles south of Cork. It's known for really good food, and we had 2 or 3 excellent meals there. And so this is a lot of boats there. We stayed at Acton's. This is start of low tide and beautiful cliff houses. Now, everybody goes to Dublin. Some people go to Galway, but a lot of people go to Florida. And I will tell you, if you had a choice, fly to Shannon, rent a car, drive to Dublin. Because And I was there twice over St. Patrick's Day. You do not want to be in Dublin when all the crazy Americans are there for St. Patrick's. So and there's a little B&B called Friars Glen that my daughter had stayed 3 or 4 times before. And actually, she got a call from the owners. The owners wanted to sell it. I wondered if my daughter wanted to buy it. And they thought of it, but the rules of non-Irish owners of inns, you just couldn't do it. Killarney has some neat sites. We'll show you those in a second. St. Mary's Cathedral, Muckrose's House, Torque Waterfall Mountain, abandoned abbey out in the lake. So here's the lake, and this is that's where we were. So we could walk to the house, we could walk up Torque Mountain, walk to the waterfall, and then we could drive around, which we did. Muckrose's House, the gardens, you pay a fee to go in. It's always neat to see how a Portfolio is. 10 sets of dishware, it's just amazing. But it is a place to go see. And the gardens are absolutely beautiful. And this is the view from, if you turn around from the house and look at the lake, you can see the lake, but you can also see Torque Mountain. So I'm going to tell you about climbing that. So, I mean, I think it's, yeah. So here's Torque Waterfall. Most people just go there and say it's a nice waterfall. It's 66 foot high and 360 feet long. But there's a stone step that fools you. You know, you go up that step and get to the top, he's done. Then there's an abandoned road which you travel for about a quarter of a mile. And then railroad ties. Yeah. And I was in pretty good shape. So you go from Old Kempler Road to that finishes with these railway ties, sleepers all the way up. And it's up 1,750 feet. And the route can be completed without hiking boots and requires no special navigation skills. But a good heart would be helpful. Then that evening, we had a great dinner at Murphy's Bar Group. There's 2 Murphy's stores. So this is the second trip. The first trip with my daughter, son, and their significant others was at night. That might be his picture. And a priest called me from North Louisiana. I was going to fly back and immediately go there for a celebration of life for my first flight. And he called me and says, well, Charlie, good morning. How you doing? Good to see you. I hope you had a good morning. I said, it's 8 at night. And he said, where are you? I said, I'm in Murphy's Pub outside Killarney. He said, how about for me? But that was my first exposure to the fact that phones go everywhere. You know, just like just down the street. So coming back, we walked that little walkway up and we stopped at a place called Molly Persons. And I told the ladies, wouldn't you like to have some apple cider? And they said, sure, we'd love some apple cider. So I got them 2, it's on tap. So I got them 2 Bruley's apple cider. And they drink it. And I said, ladies, would you like another one? And they said, sure, that's nothing. And that was fun getting them home. The beer there was just tremendous. And we're getting good sample. Now, the next morning we got up for breakfast, right? And there's 3 or 4 traditional Irish breakfast. One I haven't shown here, which is bangers and mash. What the heck is bangers and mash? Sounds obscene, but it's a chicken sausage over mashed potatoes with white gravy on top. So it's not bad. And then this is, I think, a pancake and omelet and huge strips of bacon, not the kind of we have. Yeah, it's ham. Yeah, but my son called me out of the blue about 4 days ago. I told him to give this talk. He said, "Do you remember that ugly, hateful blood pudding I did?" So I looked it up. So here's blood pudding right here, and it's also, what is it? Dark, black something. Anyway, so it's not bad. It's a slice of sausage, and it's an acquired taste. All right. So when you go to Killarney, everybody recommends you drive the Ring of Kerry. Now, the Ring of Kerry is, I don't know, let me see if I got the notes here. I think it's 111 miles around. And so we started here and we went up here. Now, I'll tell you about Valencia in a minute, because there's a side spur off the ring, so you could do the Valencia ring as well. And right here is a little bridge over to Valencia. And then you come around and you're going to see some things out here that are big stones sticking up out of here. And then you come along and see some cliffs, come down to the point, and go on up this way. So you make this loop. And it's not a bad drive, except when we rented the car, it was a standard. And I loved it. Wah, wah, wah. My kids got right into the ring. Dad, we're not going with you anymore. You can't keep driving like this. Why not? It's fun. Dad must go slow. And then the other thing, you know, when you're in protected a little bit in Killarney, you don't realize that Ireland gets a lot of rain from the Atlantic current. So this is just one example right here. Nice little beach, you can walk out, and those types of stops, they just happen. All right, now, here, this was the side trip we took. There's Portmagee. Again, it was a great place to eat. We ate before we took the ring, and we ate after we got back from the ring, and ice cream, not like Gather's, but it was good. And so, Portmagee across, up, around, and back down. And one of the neat things there is a grotto way up in the hill with the Virgin Mary there. And also, you're going to see, again, a lot of these stone structures everywhere on the island. And these start of some of these small islands that are out there. All right. How many Lord of the Rings fans? You recognize that? I don't know which month, it's the fourth or fifth one. But it was filmed there. This is Skellig Michael. It's the biggest of the Skelligs. And it's just off Ring of Kerry. And way up on top, you can't see it here, but there's stone huts. There was a monk's column up there. And only a limited number of people each year get okay to go up. There's a walkway. You can just barely make this light up. See the walkway? I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, can you see it? There's the walkway, lighthouse. Yeah, yeah. All right, but it's a beautiful structure. There's a little sister to it. I don't remember its name. And this monastery was built. Well, the peak is 750 feet high. Now, when you come a little further up, you go to a castle built by McCarthy Moors, and in the 16th century, protected Bay from pirates. And he also was a businessman, so he liked the church terrace. You know, and that's help. Yeah. Anyway, so it's a beach, a beautiful beach at Ballinscale, actually. Now there's Scaling, Ballinscale, and it's a beach, nice sandy beach. And that's at high tide, but at low tide, my kids could walk out. And they explored the whole thing, climbed to the top. I had 10,000 pictures, but I thought you'd be bored of just kids to get this way. Anyway, everywhere you turn in Ireland, you need a seat. Is there a seat? Anyway, everywhere you go in every town, there's metal statues of this person and that person and whatever. So this is in Waterville, which is the very tip before you hit back up. Again, in the best Irish tradition, you stopped, you had a little nibble and a pint, and then you went on again. So the Waterville in Irish, Gurriana, these little cauldron, it means whirlpool. And a big river comes through, it's the Karain River that goes into the bay and causes whirlpools. The road goes up, down, and around. And this is the view of Ria Carey, and it's looking down at the very main harbor and Kenmare Bay. So we're looking here, and we're going to go around this way. Again, it looks green, and they're seeing Fjorden found a monastery in the bay in the 6th century. So when you think about Patrick when he came, then this saint, looking for better, the saint came to be a little after War was tutored by Patrick. The name of the town means the oak wood of Fjorden. It's Kenmare, and at the head of the sea, a population of about 2,500. In the town, I was actually there, is a circle that goes back to the Bronze Age, maybe 2200 to 500 BC, when it was constructed. It has 13 stones and a boulder domain in the center. The Druids, as you saw last night, Druids probably did it. Now, another slide. This is Darien and its harbor, and you can see that the harbors are pretty sheltered, which is what you need when you've got this North Sea blowing over up. Love this thing. I love this thing. Sounds like sneeze, but it's Sneem. And Sneem is population in the winter of 400, and it means the knot. The knot refers to a bridge between the north. I don't know where this is the bridge, but again, little shops, you can go in and shop and have ice cream or nibbles. And so it's a bridge between the north and the south, or it means again another whirlpool. And then you come to a little bigger city, which is Kenmare, and you can see a typical European city, nicely painted fronts. And this is Kenmare, population now about 2,600, and it means little nest. So you keep driving, now you're starting to climb. When you climb up, you get to an overlook called Pawnee National Park. Remember the lake I showed you, remember Buckrose's house, all that stuff, that's all in Pawnee National Park. So this is the head end of it, it's another lake. We were staying over here somewhere, and just a beautiful overlook. And there's another picture of it. Okay. Now it was St. Patrick's Day, so we went to Church of St. Mary the Assumption, and it is a national holiday, as far as I know. But it wasn't very well attended. And my daughter, the middle daughter, not this daughter, my middle daughter runs a youth summer camp in just outside of Dublin, horse farm. Where is she? Horse. Yeah, horse farm. And they have about 350 kids. And the Irish bishops love them. It's a week long. And so those kids tend to stay with the village. Anyway, so it's a typical church architecture. You see, there's 6 spires, 1, 2 roads there. And it was built in 1842, but it kept adding on. And a bishop recently didn't like it. So he changed the inside. Great consternation. Yeah, and I'm still worried about that. All right, now we're done. We got up the next morning. We got bangers or black pudding or something, blood pudding, something. And then we're going to go from Killarney to Tralee to the Shannon Fair and put some more. Now, doesn't that look simple? It just looks very simple. Now you can do it because for high-speed motorways, there wasn't the warranty right now back then. So what we had to do, we had to go to Killarney to Tralee, back and forth. We were going up the hill around that. So it was one time, this was the second trip. My wife in the front seat, my brother-in-law, and sister on the back seat. And I'm coming up the road, moderately slowly. There's a brick wall, and the road makes me rough with turf, great turf. And there's an ox sitting there looking at the car. And my brother-in-law back said, "Holy shit!" Exactly said. Because they couldn't see the road turning. They just looked like I was going. And brambles, switchbacks. What a beautiful trip. And, now, like I said, there's a motorway. But what we did was made our way to the Shannon Ferry, Tarvin, Gillingham. The ferry operates every hour. It's 20 minutes or 20 miles a new trip. Costs about 30 minutes one way. And the ferry saves tremendous hours because we have to go all the way to Shannon. Normally we have to go all the way to Limerick, Shannon, and then come back to see the Bruce Moore. So, and I told you guys, and that's St. Patrick, he greeted me and us when we got off the ship. Wasn't the ferry there? And we had the Irish dancing ladies. That was kind of cool. The River Shannon is the largest and deepest river in the entire British Isles. So a bridge would have been difficult and very costly to build. The service started in 1969, so very recently. Families on both sides bought into it, and now it's right into business. So it was just a night. You get on the ferry and you go out and you watch. I think they have a viewing deck. You just go upstairs and watch. All right. Now there's a welcome sign that says, "Welcome to the Cliffs Moor." So, my Irish is terrible. So here's the map, here's the way in, and there's a visitor center, which is nice to see. And then there's a walkway that comes up, and that's O'Brien's Castle up there. So right there. So we're gonna park from up here, which gives you a great view of the entire cliffs. It's the West County Clare coast. It is on Europe's western frontier. There's going to be, when you look out, you can see the Aran Islands and maybe America's further off, but that's the way you're looking. So here's the cliffs. And to give you on something like this scale, that's a person and that's the cliffs. And I didn't have a good feel for my camera back then, so I cheated and I put a postcard in. This is a postcard. The surf is really, really rough. Pounding surf, you can see it hitting up in here. Sometimes it splash all the way to the top. So this way is looking south, and this way is looking north. All right. So, and then I showed you O'Brien's Castle, O'Brien's Tower, and it was built in 1835 by Cornelius O'Brien. Now, I asked somebody, why isn't your name O'Brien? They took great umbrage with me. They said that's Protestant. Oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll check with my action. Huh? Huh? But
You didn't understand the word Protestant.
okay, sorry. O'Brien is generally Protestant. O'Brien is generally Catholic. Okay, so then somebody thought my former parish was O'Brien. Make sure I knew that when I called him O'Brien. But you could climb the tower. And another thing, why is the Irish flag this way? It's orange and green with peace in it. Okay, so maybe I got that one. So this Cornelius O'Brien was the descendant of the first king of the entire Irish place. And he believed that when you developed the castle, it wasn't just to live in, it was for tourism. So he developed this tourism and helped the local economy. And uses an observation tower for visitors who come to the cliffs each year. Now, when you go up the coast further, you go to a town called Galway. And interesting story. I told you pictures in this selection. I was working on a huge NIH grant. I had to go back to like the deadline the next day. I had to get it done. So my wife and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law stayed at the tea house. I had tea and then went back. And my wife talks to the animals, literally. Chickadees come and talk with us. It's amazing. Horses too. We'll see that. Anyway, so she takes breadcrumbs, takes the biscuits, put it in her pocket, and she goes outside and she decides this is a mine right there. And she decides that she is going to feed the pigeons by the mine. And all the pigeons came and got all over the mine, traffic mullet. And she looks down and says, there's 32 euros there. They're all yours, and we're getting out of here. So the three of them went into the store. All the pigeons followed her into the store. She didn't learn. She just didn't learn. So we went to the river here, and you can see this bridge. So she's sitting with Swan, and she's throwing up some stuff. She said, I'd like to go down and see. So this is slippery walkway right here. Go down the walk. Her brother's down there before her, and she slips all the way down, and the brother caught her right before she went in. So all the swans are right there. Look at that. And she says, what the brother says, throw the crumbs and get out of here. Then they throw the crumbs, they go up there, and survive. They didn't realize swans flew. So they're walking down the street, and a gaggle of swans, I guess it's a gaggle, 50 swans or so come up on the street, block traffic, are chasing them. The cops, what is going on here? Again, they duck into the store. Anyway, it is what it is. All right, now, Wendy, here's your question. All right,
That wasn't the one I wanted.
no, no, so we decided that it's a good time in the city for a little bit. The hop on hop off bus stores are just great. And this was good. We stopped a couple of places. But when we walked from our hotel to get home, walked to a nice park and we got there, and there were liveries there for carriage rides. And my wife went to the horse, looked at it and went, and the horse went. And then went. The horse went, and she went. The horse went, and the horse tried to forward on the bus, but the guy was forward. All right, so, and notice the color. It's very important to notice the color. It's the brown, the brunette with the white, right? So that evening, we had a pre-art dancing contest, or not contest, show at the what's it, Anderson? Arlington Hotel. Of course, it's free, but that's so different. And the dinner was great. And the show was great. And then the next day, because this point in time, to walk around, I met Molly. She's a bright looking, nice face. And I told my wife that, and she didn't like that. No. And yeah, then like I say, your statues. Now, I am so proud of this. I went to Guinness, there's Guinness back there, and for those of you who are late, that is green beer. Why is it green beer? Because if you're green colorblind, which is the most prevalent color blindness, green looks brown. So I'm calling that green. So anybody, so I was able to take a class in pouring Guinness beer. Okay, so they taught you how to properly pour. Look at that. Look at that. Just perfect. And I got a certificate that said I'm a master Guinness pourer. Okay. Anyway, and we went through and got to taste the beer before the work went in, and got to taste it before it was finished, and so on and so forth. All right. Now, remember that horse? Well, after the Guinness Brewery, we were in no shape to walk back or to catch the bus. So we said, we're going to take a carriage ride. I didn't realize it was the exact same horse. Okay, we see the color is the same horse. And so we get in and go to St. Patrick's Cathedral of the Church of Ireland. We went to see it, it was nice. And we got off the carriage, and the horse came up the front steps of the church after my life. And the guy says, what did you do to this horse? And Kathy just went, and he was crucified. All right, let's wrap this up. it's really a great place to visit. There's so much to see. It's really green. If you can do it with proper preparation before you go. It's not good to just get in a car and drive and see, but if you self-driving tour, it's interesting, worthwhile. Flights, there are hotels and B&Bs. I booked them from the US and I hoped I did okay. And like I said, Aer Lingus had this tremendous sale. Well, think about it. What can you fly in the United States round trip for $500 these days? 6 hours away, you know, except to Vegas, and make money. Now, I will say that a number of my friends took tour groups to Ireland and they loved them. It's the way to go. You don't worry about it. My recommendations go to Carney and close by to give you the real sense of Ireland. You could fly to Shannon. Dublin has lots to see. The book tells us there. And I almost had a football scholarship to University of Ireland, somewhere. One of those two there, Dublin or something. And it was funded, but then the government went on those, you know, we're not going to pay these things, and they canceled the program. So it's hard. But Irish countryside itself, if you have relatives, the best thing you do is find out who they are, send a little note, and if your great grandfather didn't do it wrong, they will open you up with open arms. It's just so good. So I want to thank everybody for listening. And I got my horse in for Wendy. And any questions? Yes, ma'am.
There's a famous breed of horse from Ireland, and it's called the Connemara.
Yes.
And did you see it?
No, I didn't go to the state. That's something, you know, if you pre-planned, you would, I know there's a famous stable on in that loop. And you notice I only went to the south, from Dublin south. There's a whole knock, you know, go for Belfast and Derry. And what's the difference between Derry and Londonderry? There's a river. Londonderry is Protestant, Derry is Catholic. With the Peace Bridge, what am I doing? Peace Bridge. Any other questions? Well, I thank you. I will tell you and see if you have an interest. I propose another talk, and it would be, let's talk business. Anyway, so I have already packaged a slide tour. I was there right where Erdogan was running for a second term. And many of the people that I met a year later were in jail. So that was kind of interesting. Anyway, thank you all. Tip my hat to you.
A couple of comments. One, right now, it's a 6-hour difference to the right now. Yeah. In 2 weeks, there'll be a 5-hour difference. There is regularly a 5-hour difference. We go to summertime at the beginning of March. They go to summertime at the end of March. So there's 6 hours right now. In April, there'll be 5 hours, and that is true, well, except for this one period of time and another period in November, which will go back. That makes sense to you? So the regular time difference is 5. Okay. He spoke about Valentia Island. It's a very famous place. Let me tell you a story about Valentia Island. There was a gentleman called Mick O'Connell who was probably the greatest Irish Gaelic footballer the country ever had. And he lived on Valentia Island. Okay? And while he was alive, this was, I'm going back to about the 1970s, mid-70s, late 70s, 1970s, I mean, because I was there. The sport in Ireland is Gaelic football. There's also a hurling game as well, but particularly the football game is called Gaelic football, GAA, it's called the Gaelic Athletic Association. And it forbade those of us who played sport to attend soccer matches or rugby matches. Seriously, seriously. That was the rule, that was the order of the Gaelic Athletic Association. They were so damn Irish that you wouldn't let us play or even attend soccer matches or against or rugby matches. Nick O'Connor was one day photographed in the newspaper attending a rugby match in Dublin. It was the people cheered. They just cheered. The GAA had to give up their restrictive rules. That's the story that comes from Valentia Island. Rain. Why does it rain so much? There's a Gulf Stream that starts in the Gulf of Mexico, now called the Gulf of America, and goes directly east and up the Irish west coast, across the north and on up to Scotland. And that brings tremendous amount of rain to the west coast of Ireland. That's why it's so green. That's why it rains so much more so on the west coast than it does on the east coast. So if you go west, bring your reindeer. Killarney Cathedral in a reference to it. Beautiful cathedral. 1842. Now, where? That's only what? 150 years ago. It's a very short time ago. You know why? In 1803, the Irish country and the people won Catholic emancipation. All churches in Ireland, apart from St. Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin, were built after that time. Why? Don't you remember the Reformation? I don't mean the German Reformation with Martin Luther, I mean the British Reformation with Henry VIII. Remember that? When did that happen? 1500s, 300 years earlier than 1800. When he persecuted the Catholic religion, you could not practice it, you'd be jailed or sent to Van Diemen's Land, the penal colony just south of Australia. It was forbidden to be practiced in the country. Okay, I can tell you that.
You're saying that Catholicism was forbidden in Ireland?
Correct. For 300 years, from 1500s to 1803. So, what did he do? How did he really forbid it? Well, first of all, he confiscated all the churches, ransacked them, burned them, etc., etc., etc. The only one he didn't burn was St. Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin. That was the Catholic Cathedral of Dublin, going back to the 11th or 12th century. Around that time, yeah. And it was converted for the British occupants in Dublin as their Protestant cathedral, and it is today. And the rule in the Catholic Church, right? Yeah, Church of Ireland. Well, Church of Ireland, yes. But the rule under canon law in the Catholic Church is that you cannot have two cathedrals in the same city. Really? So there is a Catholic cathedral in Dublin. You know what it's called? It's called the Pro Cathedral. It can't have a name like St. Patrick or anything else. Which brings me forward to New York City. Who built St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City? The Irish with their nickels and dimes, and I didn't say dollars, I said nickels and dimes. Why did they build it in New York City? Because the British couldn't get to it. I'm serious. Go talk to them and you'll find out. Because they couldn't have one of their own in Ireland. Irish immigrants built it with their nickels and dimes. And that's why Killarney Cathedral was built in 1842. St. Patrick's Cathedral, it's on the south bank of the Liffey, the Brook of Kells. You mentioned the Brook of Kells. It's in one of the two universities in Dublin. There's two universities in Dublin, and I'm a graduate of UCD, University College Dublin. There's another one called Trinity College. Trinity College was, capital W, was the Protestant university for the sons and daughters of the British occupiers in the 17th and 18th and 19th century. Okay. In a place called the Pale, P-A-L-E. Now you hear people using the term outside of the Pale. What it means? It's a geographic location. It's not a political condemnation of anything. The Pale stretched from Dundalk, which is just south of the northern part of Ireland, in the semicircle, round Dublin, down to County Wicklow. Semicircle, just like that, because on the east coast of Ireland is shaped kind of like that, and Dublin is right here in the middle. So the Pale then was around that, and that's where the British landlords lived. So the Crown of England built Trinity College. When I was going to college, I applied to get into Trinity College because it's a wonderful, it's just a top-notch liberal arts college. I applied to get in. I couldn't get in. The Archbishop of Dublin, the Archbishop of Dublin, Dr. Charles McQuaid, would not allow Catholics to go to Trinity College unless he gave them permission. I couldn't get permission. So I went to UCD, University College Dublin. You know anything about the University College Dublin? You know things like the Newman Centres? Ah, you do know something about Trinity College, UCD. There's a famous cardinal in England called John Henry Cardinal Newman, N-E-W-M-A-N. Don't confuse him with N-E-U-M-A-N-N. Different name. John Henry Cardinal Newman. In the early 1800s, wrote a famous thesis on the university. It became a model for new universities. And UCD was the first college built on the premise and on the thesis of Cardinal Newman. Okay? And it started in Dublin. Okay? Now, Catholics have somewhere to go. I went there, I graduated there twice out of UCD. But I wanted to tell you about the Book of Kells. The Book of Kells is at Trinity College. Now, Book of Kells, it's at Trinity College. And there's a really very good reason for it. The Book of Kells is the four Gospels. It's not the New Testament, it's the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Written in the Latin language in the old ancient Celtic script.
I've seen that book.
Okay? It's on display in Trinity College. Why is it in Trinity College, you might say? It's there. It was written in the 8th or 9th century. Can't even remember. Around there, before the turn into the new millennium. 8th or 9th century. By monks in County Meath, in a place called Kells. K-E-L-L-S. Okay? They had a monastery there. They wrote it. The first letter of each chapter is one entire page. Remember that? Probably heard that. The first letter of each chapter of each of the Gospels is one whole page. Beautiful, beautiful old script inscriptions. And guess what happened? It got lost. When? When did it get lost? I gave you the clue already. Exactly. When the Catholic religion was being persecuted, they had to hide it. Okay? Because it was reasonably well known, so it had to be hidden. It was hidden and got lost. I mean, lost for somewhere around the late 1700s, early 1800s. It was found. It had been hidden underground in a small little tunnel, but was found when they were building a house or building a structure. It was dug up. Okay? The only place of education in the country was Trinity College. Boom. That's where it is. You can go see it. Every day they turn one page. You've probably heard that. Yeah, one page a day. I got it. Okay, Kells. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Sorry to keep this off.
We have an experience saying it was lost and now was found. Thank you all. Thanks, Peter. I'm glad he gave the color commentary. It's like a football game, but it has like color commentary. Thank you. Good job.